I call this special council meeting of the town of Silver City to order. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. The only item on the agenda requiring action this evening is under new business, and that is approval/disapproval of request for proposal number 15/16-2P, community promotions. Mr. Brown, would you care to say anything about the lodger's tax and the process we go through to award and monitor those funds?
Yes, sir. The lodger's tax funds were authorized by state statute and then adopted by the town of Silver City. The current lodger's tax rate in Silver City is 5%. So for every $100 that is spent on a hotel room, an additional $5 above the $100 is turned over to the town of Silver City. In turn, then, the town of Silver City can use to promote tourist attractions, tourist events, pay for police and fire protection emergency services, for tourist events, as well as sanitary services. The lodger's tax ordinance does authorize the town council to appoint a lodger's tax board who advises the town council on and recommends how the lodger's taxes be spent. During the budget process, the town of Silver City, the town council will allocate a certain percent, which is about 90 to 95% of the total lodger's tax receipts are authorized to allocate out for advertising and those types of things. The rest is held in, and part is used for operations of the, little bit is used for the museum, part is used for police and fire overtime, for the additional overtime for the activities that go on throughout the year. And then part of it I keep for events that are new and sometimes need help to start up, advertising, and most of the time the money that I keep on the side is for sanitary services most of the time. But this year, and usually we use an RFP process where everybody applies and describes what they want to use the funds for. This year, Councilor Bedison and Leanne Miscas, our purchasing agent, had some training which was mandatory so that they could apply for the lodger's tax RFP this year. It went very well. I just want to thank Leanne and Councilor Bedison for all the hard work that they did on it. And so the RFP process went through. The applicants submitted their applications, and then they were given to both the town council to review, and then the lodger's tax board to review and make recommendations to you. So you have today recommendations from the lodger's tax board, and then it is up to the town council to decide how you wish to disperse the $225,000 that was budgeted for this next fiscal year.
Okay. Does the council have any questions of Mr. Brown? Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Well, let me go over real briefly the outline of how we'll be dealing with the lodger's tax tonight. We're going to ask for a report from the chair of the Lodger's Tax Advisory Committee, Sandy Hicks, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the process that they use and how they evaluate proposals, and then she's going to give us their recommendation. At that point, the council can ask questions of Ms. Hicks. After her presentation and questions, then we'll ask any member of an organization that has applied for lodger's tax if they want to make any comments. And if you do, then we'll ask you to come up to the podium and make some brief comments. And the council may have a question or not. That'll be up to them. And then after that process is over and all the questions have been asked, then I'm going to ask any remaining member of the audience if they have any comments. So we'll do that, and then after that point, then the council will attend to the business of awarding the lodger's tax funds. I'd like to recognize the members of the Lodger's Tax Advisory Board. The chair is Sandra Hicks, who owns the Inn on Broadway. She represents a lodging member. Nancy Johnson of the Palace Hotel, who was not able to be here tonight, also represents the lodging community. And then Michelle Carrillo is a member that represents the industry in Silver City. And Mitch Hellman also represents the industry, and he is vice chair of the committee. And then Janie Katz is the other member of the committee, and she's a general representative from the community. So, Chair Hicks, could you make your presentation, please?
Did I just turn this on? Am I on? Okay. Well, you just took 5 minutes of what I was going to say, Ken, but thank you anyway. Good evening, members of the council and mayor. So we meet after we go through all these applications here. And a couple of things that we look at what they've received in the past and how they used it. We look at their financials to see if they're sound in many ways. And one of the other things, as you notice, we have a variety of people on this board. We bring our own information as to how well things worked. You know, did we see, was my inn full on that weekend? Was the Holiday Inn Express? Because we're very different, so it's a good mix of a variety of viewpoints that we get. Did we see a lot of people downtown for a particular event? And so we sort of, after we've looked at what people have said they did, we then talk a little bit about what we thought they did and how it looked when they did it, and evaluate it from that, and look at also whether it's enriching not only tourists and bringing tourists and that old heads in bed statement, but also whether or not it enriches the lives of the people in Silver City. Does it give them an interesting thing? Does it educate them? Does it just provide them with a fun place to go and do things? So we are looking at a variety of factors as we look at them, some of them not always particularly measurable, but we do take them into account. We then go through, and what we usually do is we go through and look at each proposal and discuss it for a little bit, and then say, okay, what do we think they should get? They asked for this last year, they got this last year, they asked for this year, what do we think they should get? And we give each one a number. And then at the end, we add it all up. And of course, it's usually more than what we were given to give away. So then we go back, and we had, as we were going through, said, well, if we have to cut somebody, maybe this one would lose a little bit. You know, this one we're being generous, and maybe we'll back off a little. So then we go back and sort of adjust it. We come out to the $225,000 that we had to spend this year. And that's sort of how we did it. And I find that I really have to compliment my committee. We all don't have the exact same opinions. In fact, we have some very strong opinions on this committee, but we all find a common ground, and we all agree on what we want to do. And it's very enriching, and it's a very enjoyable, for lack of a better word, experience, because we do come in with strong opinions, but we meet We don't fight. We all talk it out, and we find a common ground. And I really appreciate that. That's not always the case in all committees, as some of you may be aware. All right, so now you want me to go through each one, or what do you want me to do? Okay. The first one on the list is Fort Baird Historic Preservation. Last year, they received $1,500. This year, they requested $2,480, and we recommended $2,000. We're still looking for, we've asked for this in a couple of times in the past, we're still looking for specific data about what the website visits are, and also what the visitor data, who visits, who comes, where do they come from. There's references in the application to these particular points of view, points of information, but we actually didn't find the specifics, and maybe we just missed it, but I don't think it was there. And I think it's a good thing for them to start figuring out how they can do, because it really shows, it's a metric that shows that they're being successful at bringing people here. We think that they're a fantastic organization that's providing some historic background for Silver City, and so we feel that it deserves our support, and that's why we recommended that they receive $2,000, which was almost what they asked for. The Miami-Dade Region Arts Council was awarded $34,000 last year. This year they requested $42,850, and our recommendation was $35,000. Again, we have restrictions as to how much money we have to give, so we have to watch how we spend it. One of the comments was that we feel there should be a little less emphasis on the Blues Fest. That definitely packs every single lodging place in town for 2 or 3 days, and maybe more of your money spent on other events that you're doing. Not that you totally don't advertise it, but we think a lot of people know about it by now. And more promotion of other events. One of the members of the committee was very happy to see the print festival that was going to happen on Labor Day weekend, though I personally feel that we already have a bunch of things on Labor Day and wish there was something someplace else. Next is Main Street Project, and we awarded them $35,000. Next is Main Street Project, recommended. $8,000 they received last year. They asked for $16,000 this year, and our recommendation was $10,000. There's a couple of things we had questions about, where the Main Street is promoting restaurants in a couple of distant Taste of Downtown. I think there was a restaurant week, and we're wondering if that's really such a good idea right now when we've lost a number of our really good restaurants in the past 6 months or so. We had some concerns about your ads, that they were very dark and unappealing. And we really think that one of the things we need is work on the signage to point to downtown, not just from Broadway and Bullard, but from other parts of the town. If you come in from Pope, you come in from the west, you come in from the east, making sure that we're pointing people downtown. And perhaps that's one of your projects that we would suggest you could take on. Next was the Grant County Rolling Stones, an old favorite. $3,000 last year. They asked for $4,000 this year. They got $3,500. We still would like to see some kind of brochure, and they mentioned this in their application, that that people often ask questions on their website for where can we go rock hunting when we come to Silver City. And we had mentioned last year we thought it would be great if they could put together a brochure that would detail some of the rock hunting, much like we have a birding place and we have a place to take a bike ride and a place to walk. It would be nice if we also had the rock hounding. And now I recognize that doing a brochure and printing it is an expensive and somewhat tedious thing to do. So the recommendation might be that you could simply develop one and put it on your website as a PDF. So not only people visiting your website could download it, but also possibly the visitor center could download some and print them out, rather than you having the expense and the aggravation of trying to get them around. Silver City Art Association got $5,000 last year, requested $8,000 this year, and we gave them $8,000. We really consider this to be one of the premier associations doing stuff for Silver City. It's a class act, it's good art and marketing, and their brochure is absolutely tops as far as being attractive and easy to follow. So we give this group kudos and say that yes, keep up the good work. Tour of the Gila, we received $30,000 last year. This year they requested $35,000. We gave them $30,000 again. We're a little concerned, and I know I don't understand the bike racing world, so I'm probably totally off base, but we're concerned that it's more focusing on the pros, who tend to bring all of their own supplies and everything with them and don't so much use the downtown or the lodging. And we'd like to see more amateurs and individuals be encouraged to participate in this race. And like I say, I have no clue how the racing world works, so I may be totally off base. But there was a general consensus with my board that we felt that something had been lost when the emphasis became more professional and less amateur. Service City Arts and Cultural District was awarded $111,750. Last year, they requested $135,000, and this year we recommended $131,500. There was some comments on the fact that people had traveled to other towns within New Mexico, visited their visitor center, and there were no Silver City brochures there, and they felt that this needed to be looked into, get them out into more like if you went into a local town within 200 miles that you also you can find a Silver City brochure. I personally think they need to be in the El Paso airport because people come into El Paso and then they go to New Mexico, and the El Paso airport, I've talked to them, would love to have them. The other comment that came from the board was that the billboards need to be rethought and reworked. We feel that they're not doing the job. They're not representing Silver City as we would like to see Silver City represented. But we do say that their ads that they have that were on the back of their application were fabulous. I mean, they are just some amazingly great ads that you people have come up with and placed in various places. Next is Zia, and Zia runs a mountain bike race. They did not receive any money last year. This year they requested $2,500. We recommended that they receive $2,000. We are very pleased to see them, even though they are a for-profit, not a non-profit like everyone else in this list. They bring a different kind of rider to Silver City, as in the enthusiasm, the individual. This is more a single person or several people who come together and enjoy Silver City. Slightly different from what we see with the Tour of the Healer, and we think it's a great thing. It also occurs in February, which is also a great time when we don't have a lot of things going on in Silver City. And the last one is the Gila River Festival. They were awarded $2,500 last year. They requested $3,000 this year, and we recommend that they receive the $3,000. Though they don't always bring large numbers of people to town, the people they bring to town are usually educated and have money to spend and stay and eat in all of our restaurants. And they are our ecotourism. This is a very important niche for us to have, and it's a very important part of what Silver City is all about. And so we feel that this is a group that should continue to receive our support. I think that's it.
Thank you very much.
Before any of my board have something yet that I forgot?
Thank you.
Nope? Okay.
Does any of the council have a question for Sandra? Well, it's pretty obvious that that your board has spent a lot of time and hard work in evaluating these proposals and giving them a lot of thought and looking at what you think is best for Silver City and lodger's tax. And once again, I want to thank you for all of your hard work, and I'm sure I speak for the whole board in saying that. Before we go any further, I would like to ask if any of the organizations and applicants would like to make any comments. If you do, please raise your hand and I'll recognize you, and come up to the podium, identify yourself, and make any comments that you'd like to. Callie? And then Patrick.
Good evening. Good evening. I just wanted to say thank you for the previous funding that the Arts and Cultural District has received. It's a tremendous responsibility that we have, and we don't take it lightly. I've stepped into this role that has been successfully executed previously, and I'm happy to do that. I have a great team behind me, and we have a great diverse marketing campaign through print media, outdoor advertising, digital, radio, public relations, social media, and web presence. We followed New Mexico Tourism's lead and branched out on our own in some different ways to reach markets that we feel that Silver City needs. We've used striking imagery aimed to capture the essence of Silver City, and we're going to continue to strive to do that. We're a collaborative organization based in the community, non-membership, and we want to continue to promote Silver City the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Any questions you want to?
If you have a question. Yes, I did. So one of the things I noticed in your application, which was really well done, was that all the ads, with the exception of one that I could see, the print ads, which are fabulous, really focus on outdoor activities, but don't focus on the downtown, with the exception of the Billy the Kid ad that was done with Main Street. And I guess the only thing I would hope is that you would, because of course the University Museum is closing, but there's been some precipitous drops in attendance in town because folks that go to the Cliff Dwellings, go to the City of Rocks, are coming straight up and down from Deming. They're not staying in Silver. And so I'm hoping that you'll expand it to include more of the attractions that are downtown, working with various groups, especially like the Youth Whirl Project, because it gets folks all over the place, throughout the Mayan District, all the way up to Glenwood, and, throughout the town of Silver City. But I'd just like to see a little bit more of that. I agree with the Lodgers Tax Board that the billboards need rethinking. They're not necessarily directing folks to Silver City in the way that one would hope. And I also want to compliment you on actually stating, as only one other group did, that the town of Silver City is one of your tourism partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Councilor Kano, go ahead.
Actually, I'm just a little bit concerned, and I just wanted to mention this. Your proposed year 17 advertising samples, I don't know who's doing your translation, but the one that says, "Hay más tiempo que vida," that says there's more time than life, and that doesn't seem like something we would want for people to, it doesn't say, come be part of Silver City. So you might really want to work on that, please.
Definitely, we will take all of that into account. And I wanted to comment on, last year, the Lodgers Tax funding focused on the centennial of the national parks, and we received feedback from the community to be more diverse in our marketing and show Silver City's many assets. And that's what we really aim to focus on in our proposal this year, and what we'd like to move forward in doing, including the downtown, the art scene, the food scene, the welcoming community that's there. It's so down to earth, and it's such a unique place to live and visit. So we definitely want to focus on those different aspects that make Silver City what it is.
Councilor Langen-Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo one of the comments. Specifically, I brought some visitors from the El Paso airport a couple weeks ago, and they spotted the signs and they said, well, what does that mean? So I think that the billboards, which I understand are fairly low rent, really do catch attention, but they need to message something more than what does that mean. And Ms. Executive Director, I just want to remind you that for the amount of money that you're requesting and have received, you would need to generate about $2,300,000 worth of revenues in terms of hotel rooms to pay for that. So it'd be really important for everyone to begin thinking in terms of generating revenue and as well as experience in town, because that's what pays for all of the events and marketing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Main Street.
Something like this. Council, Mr. Mayor, thank you for having us this evening. To the advisory committee, thank you for all your hard work. I couldn't imagine trying to do what you do. Quite frankly, I find what I do already challenging enough. Thank you. So I'd just like to make a couple of really quick little comments here and not drag this down too much. Very specifically, I want to address the wayfinding issue. That is something that Main Street is looking at very strongly. We're working with the town, with the Arts and Cultural District, the Trails Group. There's probably somebody else in that meeting that I'm forgetting. We're not yet have the plan finalized, so we're not yet quite ready to ask for money. There may be a day when we come back to ask for that, and hopefully that's reasonably soon, but we want to make sure that we have a very comprehensive plan in place and that we're not simply wayfinding just downtown, but that our wayfinding efforts that we want to do within downtown and for downtown also completely coincide with everything else that the town is doing, the Arts and Cultural District, and that our overall branding efforts are really a combined thing. So that will definitely come back to at a later date. I just really want to thank, again, everybody involved for everything you do for us. We do really want to be a benefit to the community. We want to provide what it is that we need, and we think that the back and forth that goes on between different committees and the different organizations is how we're going to get there. So, again, I'd just like to thank everybody for their time and their effort that they have put into this, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Councilor Benison.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Questions and comments, mainly comments. Patrick, I noticed that the marketing plan is not very well developed. It doesn't tell us how well it has done in the past. There really aren't measurable things in it. And I would hope that you would take it under advisement to revisit your marketing plan to make it more detailed. It's very light, at least from what I saw. And definitely one of the things that was missing also in the application was web analytics, some statistics. You all bring lots of folks into town, but we need to, once again, I think as Councilman Smith is, remember what the heads and beds, because that's how we make the money. It's these folks that, you know, that have lodging that bring in the money for us to then redisperse it. And I think there was something else. I think really what it comes down to is being a little bit more expressive in terms of how the marketing plan is really working for you and whether it needs to be revisited. And I want to compliment you on stating in your second paragraph that the town of Silver City is one of your tourism marketing partners. Yes. Thank you very much.
Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Board President, I want to echo the issue about the marketing plan, which I didn't think was really as clear. And there's another thing I really wanted to just bring to your attention, which is in your application, you talked about making Silver City, downtown Silver City, a destination for small conferences and association meetings, which is a wonderful idea. And then you didn't talk about how you had already started to do that. For example, bringing in the Historic Theater group that had a wonderful meeting at the SoCo. So really tout what it is that you've done that's a little ways away from what you have always done. Because I think that new direction or that expanded direction really speaks to this idea of having us be a place that people want to come for a variety of reasons.
Any other Councilor Kano?
Thank you. I'd like to address this piece of literature that you're passing out, because I know that part of lodgers tax paid for this. The information on this is not entirely correct. You're missing some businesses. They are businesses that have been in Silver City for more than a year, so there's no reason for them not to be here in downtown on board. Also, I would like to know why it is that we go all the way up to 6 blocks away from downtown, yet we will not include the 3 restaurants that are on Hudson Street. I would like to see those 3 included on the next printing, and as well as the ones that are missing. And the other thing is, I would actually like your input on what the Lodging Tax Committee mentioned about, now that we have some restaurants that have closed that have been destination restaurants, how you're going to, address that.
That is something that we absolutely talked about internally. We have lost the Curious Kumquat. At the end of the process, what we really came down to was that it is our responsibility to promote the restaurants downtown, and that's it, regardless of, do we feel that there's a certain threshold of, well, we need this many restaurants that fit a certain label as far as gourmet, or however you really want to put that, that we just really felt that it wasn't our place to make a determination as to, well, this is, now we've got enough restaurants that are of a certain caliber that we're willing to go ahead and market that, but that we just really need to market what we have now. We have to make the best of what we've got, and we hear some things about some restaurants that may be here or may not be here, but we just have to base our proposal on the restaurants that have doors open today, because that's really all we know about. What's going to happen in 6 months, I really don't know. 2 months, I just don't know. So we feel that it's important to promote what we have, and I guess that's my answer. Does that answer your question?
That's my question. I just would also like to see some kind of an assurance that those 4 restaurant owners that are not included in your map are going to be included the next time it's printed, because they're missing out on that advertisement that everyone else is getting, and that's not appropriate.
Can I interrupt? I believe that the people who appear on the map, they will be on the map. So it's possible those restaurants chose not to.
I can tell you at least one of those business owners has not been approached to be a part of Main Street in any way, shape, or form, and is actually quite upset about it.
Okay.
And feels that it shouldn't be his business, his duty to go do that, but to be approached just like every other business has been.
Anything else, Councilor Khan?
No, thank you.
Councilor Ray?
Yes, I have a question for you. Do you guys include just plain downtown Silver, or would you like to include like those restaurants on Hudson Street? Since that's been very close to Silver, downtown Silver. I think that's what Councilor Khan is trying to stress out also.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. Absolutely, these should be on this list. I don't have an adequate answer as to why they're not standing here. I also do know that we should internally look at a few things, specifically where our mapped out district is and where those boundaries lie. I agree with you. Hudson Street is not disconnected from downtown. It might be on the other side, but it's still right there. So absolutely, we'll look into that. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Patterson?
Thank you. Just one other little thing, because lots of the stuff we're talking about will be integrated into next year's mandatory meeting, because I picked up on some things that didn't seem to really, I think, were not well understood by the folks that were there. May I just request that in the future, there's a checklist and the order of presentation. All the components were in here, but they were out of order. And just to try to follow what's been presented, because we had lots of folks follow exactly what was presented in the mandatory meeting, so to make things a little bit easier for the council, because I had to go through about 4 times to find something I was looking for, and thankfully I found it today, so I wouldn't have to say, oh, that's not in there. And I think the only other thing is, I think that the professional services agreement that's in your list in your operating expenses, is that with the town of Silver City? It should be so noted that it is from the town of Silver City, rather than just say professional services agreement. It would be nice to, while you already state that we are one of your marketing partners, to acknowledge that that's where that's coming from, would be welcome.
I I agree entirely.
Thank you.
I'm really hoping that next year we have more than one of those too, so
Okay, thank you.
absolutely. And again, thanks for everybody.
Any other questions? I like your goal of making downtown a destination, and although it's not involved in actual lodger's tax money, I'm really happy that you're working on the Big Ditch Park and the plaza, because those two things, when developed, will help to make downtown a destination. We may not have a river walk like in San Antonio, but those kind of things will bring people to Silver City when properly developed. So thank you for working on those. Thank you.
San Antonio doesn't have a big ditch either. Thanks, everybody.
I'm with the Rolling Stones Gem and Mineral Society, and I'm standing in for the show chairman who's on vacation right now. So I would just like to thank you for many, many years of support for our little organization, and you have done wonderful for us. We've watched our budget go in the last 3 years. It's gone from like $2,500 to $4,000, our advertising budget, so it's just kind of ballooned up there. This year we got a really good deal. There are 4 events on Labor Day, and we are partnering with the other 3 organizations to do group advertising. So we have done really, really well in this endeavor. It's only cost us like $750 each to get into 4 magazines, with each event advertised in its own little corner. So we're doing really well with that. If you look through all our advertising, the one thing that's stuck in my craw for years is the fact that we've never been able to afford to advertise in New Mexico Magazine. So, somehow or other, our little show has gotten out to the ears in Albuquerque, and they contacted us last week, and they want to put our little gym show in their September issue. So, we feel like there will be no empty motel rooms, hotel rooms, RV park, nothing on the Labor Day weekend. Anyway, that's about all I have to say, except thank you for many, many years of support.
Questions? Councilor Beston?
Just a few comments. Could you introduce yourself, Ann?
My name is Ann Nolan.
Thank you. One of the things that I emphasized during the mandatory meeting that was on the material that was sent out to everyone, and the council received a copy of is the fact about scholarships. Be careful where you put that information, because some of the things that concerned me when I read this is just, I think you've explained it now, but on the letter of transmittal, it says that the proceeds of the show are used to support several other worthy Silver City community organizations, and include the Southwest County Music Project Association, the Members Regional Arts Council, and the Silver City Main Street. And I think that working collaboratively is the key, like what you were just talking about, especially with advertising and making your dollars go further. But it worries me when I see that there's $4,000 going out in scholarships, and the suggestion is to give $3,000 for lodger's tax. The question that becomes is our lodger's tax somehow funding those scholarships?
Well,
and it's clear from what they did this year that it's not.
Right.
But I would just suggest in the future to be very careful about putting some of that in, just because I think that we want to make sure that it's so nice and detailed in here, how you're going to spend the money, that's what makes me feel better, that I know that the money's not going for scholarships.
Well, as far as advertising goes, we can either spend the money on advertising or scholarships. So if we say, well, this year we're going to do scholarships and we're not going to advertise, so what will that do to our show?
Right. No, I agree, but I'm just saying that the detail is greatly appreciated. Please tell the show chairman that it's greatly appreciated, because it's clear that there isn't that same sort of confusion as there's been in years past.
Okay.
And the only other thing, we get counts on the folks that are coming in the door, and it seems like, I think you have a plan in 2017. I wish you would do it this year to find out how many of those folks are from out of town and if they're staying in our lodging.
Well, we do a survey, and we do it like every 3 years, and we did it not last year, but year before. I think we're about due for a survey, but we have to plan for it, so it'll probably be the next year before we get to it. And then also, hopefully, we will be back in the conference building when that happens. Because at the gym, we have like 4 open doors. And it was just crazy because we couldn't man all of them last year, so we couldn't never have anybody handing out the survey slips at every door. So we're going to be faced with that problem again this year, so that's why we're not doing the survey.
Okay, I just wanted to, it's been, I think, already Councilor Smith and some of the folks have spoken about the fact that the $3,000 turns into, I didn't do my math very well. $60,000 in actual staying in lodging. So just kind of keep the hat on to remember that that's one of the things we'd like to know, is how many folks are actually staying in lodging. So, but...
Well, we hand out the survey, and we have really no other way to do it, and yet we don't get a whole lot back. You know how people, lug the survey out and throw it in the trash on the way out the door.
Just a brief comment. There are a limited number of lodging facilities in town. You might approach them and see if they could ask people when they're checking in or when they make a reservation, if their plan was, if they were coming specifically for your event. There are other events at that time, but I know at least a couple of the lodging establishments do that regularly, as asked for, if they have a heads up and a connection with the organization. And that way, your metric might actually come from the people who are collecting the money that then will be used in future advertising.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. The largest down here.
Please.
Mayor Fowler, I was just going to reiterate basically what Councilman Amon Smith said. I know there at the hotel, the Holiday Inn Express, we get phone calls from the other organizations requesting funds, and we do ask our guests, what brings you to town? And most of them, I know a lot of the times we house a lot of your vendors. So that information is what we need to see in here. So.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Again, thank you.
Please identify yourself and tell us what organization you're with.
My name is Lori Hildebrand. I'm with the Fort Baird Historic Preservation Society. I'm here on behalf of Cecilia Bell, our president, who could not make it tonight. I just wanted to address a couple of things that I heard earlier about our websites and number of visitors and things, and we are working towards that. We had over 9,000 hits on our website in the last year. I believe that was included in our packet that we did present. But we have also come up with a new Fort Baird Museum out of our guest book. We have put together our guest book for the last 15 months. We had over 760 visitors. I didn't break it down in the last little bit between out-of-town and out-of-state, but the out-of-state visitors, and I can pass this around if anybody wants to look at it, the out-of-state visitors actually surpass more of our locals and our in-state visitors. We also have visitors from the UK, from Mexico, and several visitors from Canada. So we are a large draw, almost worldwide anymore. Word is getting out about Fort Baird. That was basically all I wanted to mention, but I wanted to see if anyone had any questions.
Any questions? Councilor Patterson?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, it was, as I think has previously been noted by the chair of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board, there was supposed to be some web analytics in here, and there were none presented. I've looked through it thoroughly, so this is, whoever's writing it, they just need to make sure that they include all the parts, especially if they cite something that's not in there. And definitely web analytics would help, along with maybe a little bit, once again, if you're having a special celebration or something like that, call and ask, our lodging, the folks that are running the lodging, to find out if you've got people staying overnight to go to those events, like Fort Baird Days, things like that. I guess the one thing I do have a question on, I think I brought it up last year, is, once again, there's a request here to do the annual meeting, to pay for the annual meeting. That's a membership meeting, I understand.
Yes.
And is that truly a tourism event?
It is, because we have many members that come from all over, not just the county, but all over the state. We have members throughout the state. We have several of them come down, and they do stay in lodging and have their meals here. Fort Baird isn't sustainable, and we have no lodging and no meals. So all our visitors, all our guest speakers are all directed to Silver City for their lodging, for their meals, and we also point out any other activities going on. And we encourage them to go downtown and see Big Ditch, because it ties in to the history of the whole area so well. And they also are very interested in Pinos Altos, because that was a very early tie-in to Fort Baird. So many of our people do go downtown to Silver City.
So one of the things that was mentioned during the mandatory meeting is saying it is different than showing it. So I come from the Show Me State. I'm from Missouri. That's where I was born. That's not really what the Show Me State is all about, but this is the way I use it. So yes, I'd like to see that information and those statistics, because if the majority of the folks, if everybody that comes is only from town, the question becomes, because I don't think we ever get the Arts Council asking us to pay for their annual membership.
Right.
And I understand that you always have a speaker, but let's make sure that the that there's some information, some analytics about who's coming, who's staying, that sort of thing, because the suggested or recommended $2,000 is $40,000 in lodger's tax and lodger's rooms. So you need to kind of think of it that way. And that's really, those are the only concerns that I really have, is just making sure that everything is at least explained in terms of how the lodger's tax funding is really, we're getting a bang for our buck. And we know that it's an attraction that other people will go see once they've come here for something else. That too is important, though. Okay? So that's with anyone in the room. If they're coming to see your event, and then they go somewhere else, that's an important thing as well, because it shows that they're touring the whole community, and they're spending hopefully more time.
Yes, agreed, definitely.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Oh, and I did have one more comment. This is the 150th anniversary of Fort Baird. Because of the construction, we probably will not be doing a lot of events, but anything that we do will be posted and advertised, and possibly held at the Armory in Santa Clara.
Thank you.
So thank you for your time.
I saw a hand in the back. Yes, ma'am. Would you please both identify yourself if you're going to make a
Okay,
presentation?
I'm Lois Duffy, and I've been doing this for a number of years, so I'm trying to get a new crop of volunteers. This is Rebecca Martin, who I'll let her do the speaking.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Lodgers Tax Board. Thank you, Town of Silver City people. And thanks for the great comments from the Lodgers Tax Committee. We worked really hard on that, and I shouldn't say we too much because I know Lois and some of the others that came with us worked very hard. We're a good team on the Art Association, and we are looking forward to expanding our event this year from 2 weekends to a full 10 days. Well, we kept getting feedback from people coming. They couldn't decide when they should come. So we said, well, hey, let's make it easy. Give them 10 whole days and sandwich it in with a lot of great events in between. So during that week in between the studio tours that they can go to, they can also attend demonstrations and lectures, other gallery, extravaganzas, if you will, and a lot of other fun and artful activities. So that was our goal this year, to really make it more appealing to more people from out of the community as well as in the community. And we're here to answer questions for you, should you have some.
Questions? Councilor Raymond Smith?
I just have a comment that I thought that your application was very well done. And perhaps that's what happens when designers and artists work together on an application. And I think it'd be really a good model template for future ones. I did have one kind of comment, and that is, in your experience with your art in your 10 days, are people coming specifically to attend this event? And are they like art buyers, artists? Can you give me a little sense?
Well, I'll give you one anecdotal thing from my other hat. You know how we switch hats a lot. So at the Visitor Center, my other hat, I do get the opportunity to interact with a lot of visitors very directly. And I will say that just 2 weeks ago, I had a visitor from Las Cruces in who, upon conversation, discovered they were artists themselves, art collectors as well, and were very interested in the galleries. And I said, October, you've got to come in October. We've got this big hoop-de-doo. And she was so happy about it after going around downtown, visiting some of the galleries, left me a personal note. I had left for the afternoon when she got back, and she left me a personal note thanking me for inviting her, telling me she would see me in October, and 3 little candies from the Hester House. So yeah, people do come here for that. I don't know lately what the number of buyers. When I had my gallery in town, which I've given that hat up so I could wear a bigger visitor center hat. But when I had my gallery in town, I certainly did see a number of visitors from out of town who were purchasing art at that time, and Lois probably has a longer history of that.
We had a pretty slow period there, as you all know, after the recession. But I will say that in the past year and a half, it's definitely picked up. And they are beginning to spend some money again. So I hope this will coincide with our expansion at the same time.
Councilor Besson?
I want to echo Councilor Smith's comment. This was excellent. No stickies. Excellent. Really, very well done. It could serve as a model for everyone else.
And that was a team effort. It was not done by one person. It's all people that have lots of hats to wear who were willing to put a lot of energy into it. So
it's a well thought out marketing plan. I greatly appreciate that.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Kano?
Okay, well, now you're going to hear it for the 3rd time. This was excellent. Everyone else should come in and talk to the Art Association because they did a really good job. And whoever went to the meeting, I can't remember who it was, but whoever it is that showed up for that meeting, you must have taken some really good notes because you have everything in the right order, you have everything nice and presentable and easy to read, and I really appreciate that. So whoever did that, thank you.
I'd like to make one suggestion that I heard today that somebody, I forget who it was, said that they hadn't seen brochures for Silver City out of the area. We do deliver our art guide to every visitor center, information center in the state. If we could get together and bring them all at once, we might be able to coordinate a lot more literature.
Okay, thank you very much. In the back.
I'm Alex from, what? Oh, gosh. Hi. I'm Alex from Zia Rides, and I wanted to say thank you for seeing the value and allowing us to help these races grow, especially if they're a little bit outside of what you're used to seeing. And then wanted to take questions.
Are you representing Zia?
Yeah, I work for Zia Rides, yes.
Councilor Bastrop?
Thank you, Mayor. So, I know you attended, and I know that Martin attended, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But it doesn't appear that either one of you wrote this.
I wrote it.
You wrote it, okay.
And he helped.
Okay, because it's clear that there's matching funds that run the race. It's not just the $2,500.
Right.
So we just want to make sure that you go through and put in what the matching funds are rather than $0, because if the event costs $12,500 and you're getting $2,500 from us, there's got to be some matching funds somewhere in there.
I think I misunderstood about the matching funds.
Okay.
We don't get corporate matching funds in any way?
Yeah, that's that.
Or
Yeah.
sponsorship for those things? I thought that's what you meant. Do we bring in, my understanding from fundraising is, you know, if we make this amount of money, do we then receive matching funds?
No.
And I didn't, so I misunderstood.
So that would be a point for me to make sure we clarify that a little bit more.
Yeah, that's why you see all zeros. I've always understood matching differently.
Yeah, matching is in terms of anything, bringing in, selling merchandise, all that sort of stuff, bringing in writers' fees, things like that.
Oh, but we did show those things. I showed those
You
things
showed
in
them,
other places,
yeah,
right?
yes,
Okay.
you did. You showed them everywhere but on the front page, so I wanted to commend you for doing that, and I really appreciate that. The only thing that I would take away from this that I would really like to see is an issue that I had last year, which was the advertisement needs to be about Silver City.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to be about Zia Rides as much. Yes, they're doing it, and I know that they're a private entity, but for lodger's tax funding to be used, it really needs to encourage people to come and stay in Silver City. And if there's group ads where you've got all the different municipalities that you do things in, I'd feel a little shaky. I mean, it's got to have double information about the fact you have to have a logo on there, you have to say funded in part by Silver City's largest tax, but I noticed that in some of them, Zia Rides is huge. It's got the Zia Rides, .com thing.
Right.
But the question is does Zia Rides .com or whatever the last part is, does it hook into our tourism, our Visit Silver City website? Does it hook into the Tour of the Healer website? Does it hook into things like that? I guess I just want to make sure that in terms of the advertising that the folks who are doing the advertisements, it has to focus on coming to Silver.
Okay. Did you have a chance to look at the website?
No.
Okay, just because the Tommyknocker landing page actually does highlight all of the partners that we work with, and we make hotel recommendations. We worked with, sorry, I'm not great about this. We worked with the Holiday Inn Express. I stayed there myself, and actually before I moved here, I used to stay at the Palace, and I called, and they were full that whole week. And we linked to all of that stuff on the Tommyknocker specific site.
Great.
So we don't have a ton about the visitor center, but we do mention fun things to do in the area, and we use local businesses for the trophies and stuff too, which is really cool. People get really excited about it. So.
And I would suggest working maybe a little bit with in terms of photography, to really set your race separate from other races. So right now it just looks like a whole bunch of, somebody's riding through some grass and stuff. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because there's at least one of them that was done last year as a CDT trail, and I know that you guys are not on the CDT trail, but just something that really speaks to Silver City.
To where we are.
Yeah, to where we are.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Just a brief comment, just so that everyone in the room and who's not watching realizes that this event is going to be in February, which is considered a shoulder time. That means there's not a whole lot of stuff happening in town. And so that actually gives it a little extra in the fact that it's not in September and it's not in May. So I just want to acknowledge that. And do you have any idea, based on your experience, of the projected increase of this type of race here in Silver City?
It's sort of limited by what kind of Forest Service permits we can get. So we did sell out this last year, and the Forest Service was happy with what we did. So we're hoping to be able to get a larger permit, and we also, they are hopeful that we can make it a multi-year permit. I'm not sure if we've all agreed how much we can expand it each year in terms of ridership. I know that's kind of non-committal, but...
No, that's actually what I wanted to hear. It was that it sold out.
It did.
Thank you.
It did.
Councilor Khanna.
I just have a couple of comments for next year's application, because I assume you'll be doing this again. I really liked that there were a lot of percentages in here, but there was no base for me to know what 50% of was, or 15% or so. If you could just add that in, that would be really great.
Yes.
And then also, under your proposed budget, you put Grand County Lodgers Tax Award. You'll need to change that to Silver City, please, because it's two different groups.
Thank you. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jack, your hand was up first. Come on. Can you make a motion?
Good evening, I'm Jack Brennan with the Tour of the Gila.
Michelle Giles with the Tour of the Gila.
And we'd like to thank the Lodgers Tax Committee for all the work you guys have done. I know it's really, really hard work, and I certainly do appreciate it, and we're here for questions.
Actually, I have a comment before you ask questions. I really wanted to say thank you to the Art Association as well, because I think they have done a terrific job. And we also put on an event in October, the Gran Fondo, and we have moved that to the weekend of the first part of Red Dot, so that we can bring more people into town. And riders are traditionally an influential bunch, so we think it's a really good matchup. So hopefully that'll increase heads in beds.
Councilor Weston?
So, you brought up something I was going to ask you. You guys do the Grand Fondo, right?
Yes.
But it's not something that you're asking money for?
Right. Not yet. I mean, we have in the past. We haven't put a lot of marketing effort into this. It's going to grow. We have interest at the moment out of some of the people that help us with Tour of the Gila, and with the Decca Jersey Company, and who was the other one? The other one for marketing. Anyway, it's looking like it's going to grow. We've just needed help, and the Jack and Michelle show needs to grow bigger. so that looks like it will happen. And so next year we'll probably be prepared and ask for that as well.
Yeah,
we just felt we'll just stick with the Tour of the Gila for this particular one.
Because when I read it, I went back and looked to see if you had just forgotten to put it in there, to see if it was even in your...
Right.
You know, but, so... The only other thing that I would want to comment on is heads and beds.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no statistics for that.
Right. And again, that's something that we need to address more. And as we go forward, we're going to put together active committees, so that we have help gathering statistics such as those. And we will concentrate on professionals versus the amateurs, and who's staying where, because I do believe a lot of the professional teams do stay in motels. Quite often they'll split up because they're really large groups, and so we use the host housing as well. And so I know of several teams that had half staying in motels and half were in host housing. So a lot of that kind of thing happens too. But we'll get figures and do the breakdown for next year.
Definitely that. It's not just for the tour, because this is a year-round thing. I mean, folks are mentioning the fact that they come and they train. So I just think you need to expand your mindset, because they do come in and train before they ever do the tour or in preparation for the tour.
A lot of that is really unknown. They don't
talk to you?
They don't talk to us that they're coming into town. We had one team that was here for 3 weeks.
But they talk to the lodgers. hopefully.
Yes, but again, they don't say, hey, Jack, we're coming in 2 weeks early or a week early for the event. We did have a lot of folks coming in that week before the race. We had teams come in, we had some amateurs come in. And the only way we saw them, we had reports that, these teams, with a certain jersey was out riding 90. But again, they never checked in with us.
Okay. Just a comment to your publishing, the Verde. Couldn't read half their statistics. I mean,
as far as on top of the...
Yeah, I mean, they're too small, or they were blurry, and maybe my eyes were just really tired, but I kept, I needed a magnifying glass. So
Okay.
just remind them that people need to read it, not just on the screen, but they need to, if it's going to be printed out. I guess I have a question for Mr. Brown on a cost. They have a cost that says production costs. It includes graphic design and photographer. And I know there's matching monies, but if you're paying for a photographer, aren't you paying the salary for the photographer? So it would really be the graphic design fees, correct, that they could pay. So just remember that in terms of when the award is given, that don't ask for photographer salaries, because we can't cover that. But there's a large matching amount in there. I know, so.
Right.
But we can cover graphic design fees.
Got it.
Designer fees, yeah. I just want to make sure I'm right. Right? Yeah, okay.
So you're not considering photography a part of production of advertising? Just to be clear.
Well, actually, yes. The photography will be part of the production.
So the photographer's salary would be part of it? Because
as long as the portion of it that is applied to the production of the...
Right, you buy images from photographers. And they come with rights, and you can, they can either be a one-time use or free use.
That's okay.
Okay.
I was just worried that you were out hiring a photographer to take everything, not buying the images singly. It was something I couldn't...
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that's right. Because you're buying the images, you're not paying them the salary and then saying,
right,
I get everything that you, all the pictures.
We end up with a library of images, and we use that for our marketing purposes. That is the whole point. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the last thing is for the recommended amount, it's $600,000 in lodging that you would need to bring in. Think of it that way.
Okay, got it.
Okay? Do you want me to make the motion now? You want to wait and see if there's any other questions first?
Councilor Amos Smith?
No, I don't have
Any other questions? Councilor Benison?
Mr. Mayor, I move for a short break.
How long?
No more than 10 minutes.
Okay, a motion to take a break for 10 minutes till about 7:15. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Call us back to order.
You were quick.
I didn't go.
Oh, no, I know.
Okay, I think I saw a hand right here in the front.
Good evening, I'm Allison Civic. I'm Executive Director of the Gila Conservation Coalition, and we coordinate and put on the Gila River Festival every year. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, Town Council, the Silver City Lodgers Tax, and Silver City staff for your support over the last, actually more than 10 years. So Silver City's Lodgers Tax has been an important component of our efforts to advertise this event, and we've heard others over in Arizona call the Gila River Festival one of the Southwest's premier nature festivals. So we're really proud of that, proud to have developed this festival that started out really small into what it is today. And we're seeing out-of-town attendees increase every year. It's a little every year. And this coming year, or this year's festival, it's the 12th annual. It's the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. And so we'll be honoring our natural and cultural heritage and bringing speakers in. We hope to have the Fort Sillapachi fire dancers here with us this year, so we're really pleased about that. And also, we're really pleased about all the collaboration that's happened over the years. I mean, this is really an event that brings in a lot of nonprofits, the university, businesses, the arts, downtown arts district, the Arts and Cultural District. So we couldn't do it without all of the collaboration. So we thank you very much, and if you have any questions or feedback, I'd love to hear it.
Questions or comments? Councilor Amon Smith.
I just have one comment, and it's a congratulatory comment, Ms. Executive Director, and that was, I very much liked the year-by-year comparison of accomplishments and growth. That gave me a really good picture of how the festival has adapted, become more collaborative, and expanded over time. So that was well done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Kevin Lankner. I'm the Executive Director of the Nimbres Region Arts Council. I'll try to be brief. Thank you, everybody, for making this a great process. I come from a place that has no lodger's tax, and we have literally a zero budget, so this was a great inheritance of opportunity. The only comment is, if at all possible, can we make this a little bit later than right after Blues Fest? That would be an amazing thing. But hopefully we got it all done, and I'm ready for comments and questions.
Questions, comments? Councilor Kano.
First time you've done this, but I also know that the meeting was attended, so I'm going to ding you on a couple of things. First of all, I can see you through that. That means I don't need a binder this big.
Okay.
And there's a reason that we want these instead. They're real extremely heavy, and our poor town clerk ends up having to take 6 groups of them home after this. I mean, back to the office. So, you know. No, I'm definitely not going to for you. And, I mean, it really is a problem. And also the order of what you gave us, my issue is that all of this, your advertising and everything, is in the middle, and your budget is at the very end. The budget's more important than the examples. So if you could go with the order that was given from now on, because I know it was given repeatedly by both Ms. Niskis and Councilor Edison, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Councilor Amon Smith.
I noted one thing that I really appreciated in there. I agree. I don't like those binders. I like it smaller. But one of the things that I particularly liked was that in your marketing plan, you really lined out in a way that was easy to see what publications you were targeting and why, and what markets you were targeting and why, and the specific demographics. And that was a really good example of a comprehensive view of a marketing plan.
Thank you. Councilor Edison.
Thank you, Mayor. I liked the presentation. I agree with both Councilor Kano and Councilor Amon Smith that it's trying to make sure it's in the order in which the presentation's made. The only thing I noted was that there's some questions that you included, which I really enjoyed seeing the survey of the 2016 Silver City Blues and Bikes Festival attendees. I liked it, but there's some blank, there's no data So just be careful in putting together that if there's 76 respondents, but there's nothing on the page, you may need to just go through and make sure that it's there. Because there's some of them I wanted to know really bad, and they're not there, probably because of printer error or something, so.
Yeah, I think when they have individual comments, it splits them out differently, but I can make that available to you. We actually, it's only 5 days after the festival. We have about up to 80 or 90 surveys now. We also survey the vendors and the volunteers, so I can make that available to you, and maybe in a digital form it would be easier to access.
It's just my own curiosity. I think it's really intriguing that most of them say to keep the festival the length that it is.
Yes.
And I thought that was interesting, and then I also thought was interesting is how many people actually went to Pickamania as well, but we're no longer offering that out of the survey. I am intrigued by the redo of the youth mural project, murals map, because that is something that we promote a lot, and I know that several of the artists that work on that promote it heavily in their galleries and in their businesses. And I think that is one of those sideline things that people come to do if they're taking some time off. Then they can go out to Fort Bayard, and they can go see the mural fair, they can go all the way, out to the Bayard Community Center. So I think that combining and having it done anew will be exciting and something that our visitor center and our different attractions can use to say, well, if you're going to be out at such and such, make sure you look at these great murals. So I thought, while it's not necessarily an event, it's an all-year-round opportunity for people to stay in Silver City, use it as the place to stay, and to go out and see these murals as well as do other things. So I thought that was great you put it in there. And I'm looking forward to the new Blues series.
Great.
So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Has each organization had a chance now to make a comment? Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to make a brief comment? Okay, thank you. I've just got one question. This is my first year of doing this, and I'm not sure if Ms. Hicks or the city is the one that needs to answer the question for me. I was looking at the sheet, which gives the fiscal year 2015-2016 lodger's tax reimbursements, and in a separate column, fiscal year 2015-2016 log of summary reports received by lodger's tax award recipients. And the thing that caught my eye, and I guess what I have a question about, is the Fort Bayard Historic Preservation Society. I noticed that they don't have a balance at this point, but I also noticed that there's no indication of a final report. Ms. Hicks or Ann, could you clarify that for me? Or Mr. Brown, who's going to do that? Okay.
Mayor, in the instructions to the awardees, Leanne, the purchasing agent, does tell the awardees that in their final submission of their last reimbursement request, that they include a final report that shows how they spent their monies with categories, advertising, and such. This indicates that Fort Bayard did not submit that final report with their final reimbursement request. So I just left it blank.
Okay, thank you. Fort Bayard, do you have a comment? Or?
I know not this time. I wasn't involved in this together, so I can't speak on that. Just come to the podium.
Yeah, come up to the podium, please.
No, I wasn't involved in putting the report together, so I can't speak to that at this time.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think the problem is we're required to have that final report. I would like to thank all of the organizations for to their comments, and I'd like to recommend that the comments that you heard from the council, recommendations and some guidance about what they would like to see, I would like to see you give that some weight as you go forward in this year. We don't necessarily need to wait until the next fiscal year when you turn in another request, but as you go forward with your projects this year, because I think the council had some fairly good suggestions for you to consider. I want to thank all of you for your comments, and I want to thank all of the organizations that have invested the time and effort to prepare your proposals requesting these funds. I know that it not only takes a lot of time to plan and prepare for the different events that you sponsor, but I know that's only part of the process. Actually putting on the event takes a tremendous amount of time and effort, and the support of hundreds of community volunteers and additional money, be it real or in kind. As a result of your efforts in these events, out-of-town visitors come to Silver City from all over the country and even the world, and eat in our restaurants, shop in our retail stores, stay in our motels and hotels and other lodging facilities, enjoy our recreational opportunities, enrich the lives of our community members, in that and other ways contribute to the economy of Silver City, and therefore the collection of lodgers tax, which is so critical for us being able to award these lodgers tax funds. I also want to thank the town manager for his leadership and support, his staff who administer the finances of the awards, provide security, sanitation facilities, cleanup, and the many other services that make these events possible and successful. And last but not least, I want to thank our city council, who have spent many hours studying and evaluating the 9 proposals. I can assure you, and I think you can tell by the questions and comments that were made, that a tremendous amount of time and effort was put into their study as well. I want to thank Councilor Cano and Councilor Bediston. Are you the two that put on the workshop?
No, I just attended.
Okay, Councilor Bediston and Leanne. Thank you all for the time and effort you put into putting on this workshop. I think the quality of the proposals were probably better this year. I don't know, I wasn't involved last year, but thank you for your effort. With that said, do I hear a motion relative to FFP number 15/16-2P, Community Promotions?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Amon Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the recommendations of the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board, granting awards totaling $225,000 to the following recipients and in the following amounts. Fort Bayard Historic Preservation, $2,000. Members Region Arts Council, $35,000. Main Street Project, $10,000. Grant County Rolling Stones, $3,500. Silver City Art Association, $8,000. Tour of the Gila, $30,000. Silver City Arts and Cultural District, $131,500. ZF, $2,000. Gila River Festival, $3,000.
We have a motion is read. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilor Cano.
I would like to propose, I guess, a friendly amendment to your motion that the Fort Bayard Historical Society not receive any further payments until they have finished their final report from this year.
Councilor Cano, what I would like that is, not as a friendly amendment, but I'd like that as a
A motion?
Motion, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I move to include with your motion, that the Fort Bragg Historical Preservation Society not receive another payment until they have finished their final report for this year.
So basically,
what I said?
it's a condition of them receiving this next year's funds, is that they submit their final report from last year. So they receive no funds for next year unless we get a final report from last year.
We have a motion, is there a second?
A second with, did you agree to that?
Yes.
Yeah, a second, especially with that they don't get any payment for the upcoming year until they turn in their final report for this year.
We will not even get a purchase order until we get the, so they can't even start working on it until we get the report.
Do we need to clarify that more in the motion, Mr. Mayor, or?
Mr. Scavron, can you help us out, please?
Since the final report is a requirement, I'm not sure that you need to do it by motion. I think that by giving direction to the town manager that he is not to make any reimbursement or disbursement to Fort Dade until he receives the final report would be sufficient. And I don't think that you need to amend the main motion to accomplish that. I think by giving him direction independently, you as mayor, that will occur. So amending the main motion by requiring compliance with the law, I don't think it's required.
Okay, thank you. Would you withdraw your second?
I should.
If you would withdraw your motion. Okay, so noted. Okay, back to the original motion. Is there any discussion? Councilor Bedison.
I just, as has already been stated, but I just want to make it really clear in the discussion part that they're contractually obligated to do this under the terms of the contract that they're given, and every other entity submitted their final report. And that, as far as I can see from what, those that asked for reimbursement submitted their final report.
So is your direction that we continue to require these reports?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I need to make sure.
And the only further discussion that I would like to say is I think we need to continue with the mandatory meeting. And working with Leanne, we can find it for next year.
Yeah, it's not part of the motion.
It's not part of the motion.
But it's part of your discussions for next year.
Yeah, part of our discussion. So do you want us to finish the motion first and then discuss this other stuff?
Well, I'll do that.
That's the mayor.
Councilor Ray, you had something?
I got a comment.
Yes.
I want to thank all you guys for doing what you're doing, and keep on doing it, because that's what makes Silver City and Grant County unique. It makes our job a lot easier, and that way we out here in the open, no holds barred, where everybody knows what's going on. Again, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion as presented by Councilor Amon Smith, and we're in the discussion phase. Any other discussion? Ann?
We still have Councilor Bedison's second, or was it withdrawn?
No, I withdrew it to the amendment that we would need, and then
She withdrew it, and then Councilor Kano withdrew her motion.
Yeah. But second still stands for this.
And now we have a second on the main motion to make the awards as presented by Councilor Amon Smith. Any further discussion on that? Okay, roll call, Ann?
Councilor Medicine?
Aye.
Councilor Amon Smith?
Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Kano? Aye.
The motion as presented by Councilman Amon Smith with the amounts as stated passes. This concludes the business of the City Council of the Town of Silver City. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I think that we have something to do. Are we supposed to give final direction? I don't know.
Do what?
Are you supposed to give final direction to the public or later?
Say that again.
So are we going to
discuss in public directions to staff about things that we'd like to see in place for this upcoming year. Like continuing the training.
Okay, yes, the town council would like to have some discussions on directions for this coming year, so I'll back up to that point. Okay, so let's have some direction. Councilor Bedison.
Direction is that we continue with the training and also working with Leanne, whoever is there to do it. It could be me or Councilor Emmett Smith. And I would recommend that we open that up to the Lodgers Tax Committee to come and hear the training so that they know the sorts of things that we're looking for. That's my recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
To you.
Okay. Mr. Brown? And we would like to follow through on that.
The reporting, as well as requiring that we get the final report before...
Absolutely, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Anything else? Councilor Kano?
I would just like to respond to what you just said. I believe that I would also be able to make that, to do that training just as easily since I've taken it and I've done this 3 times too. So when you said you or Linda or Councilor Emmett Smith, that was not just you.
Mr. Mayor, my apologies. Anyone can do that if I'm not available to do it.
Okay. Mr. Brown, are you clear on that?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. Does the council have anything else before we get a motion to adjourn? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adjourn.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, we are adjourned.